Well, today on Practical Church Planting, we're talking about 3 things you can do to get more out of your Sunday sermon.
Welcome back to Practical Church Planting, where in 15 minutes or less, we'll give you practical tips, advice, and encouragement to help you plant and grow healthy churches. My name is Brian Androsian. Joining me is Dylan Dodson, and today we're talking about 3 ways to get more out of your sermons.
So, as we all know, we spend a lot of time prepping and planning our sermons.
Sure.
Whether you do it individually or with a team, a lot goes into it. So wouldn't it be great, Brian, if you could get more out of it than just the Sunday morning?
That's all I've ever dreamed of.
So we want to talk about 3 ways that you can get a little bit more out of your sermon to make some of those hours even more worth it. Because, of course, even if you don't do anything past Sunday, it's still worth it. But to make it even more worth it and to help get into the hearts of your people and the minds of your people beyond just Sunday.
Yes.
2 of these are quite simple. One's a little bit more work, but hey, take or leave it. If you want to get more out of your sermon, here are 3 ways.
Here you go.
Number one is a sermon quote. Here's what I mean by a sermon quote. On Facebook, on social media, we post a lot of stuff. You probably post stuff as well. One of our most engaged posts every single week is our sermon quote, which basically is a picture of me or whoever's teaching from that Sunday morning with our bottom line, and that's what it is.
Yep.
And in fact, if you look at research shows that people will retweet, quote, engage with more quotes than even Bible verses. And people, especially on Twitter, will retweet Bible verses and engage with Bible verses a lot.
Yeah.
This goes even a step further. And so here's what we would do. Now, in episode 32, we talk about a sermon template, a message template that we use that talks about a bottom line. So if you want more information about that. But this is why we also recommend summing up your message in 1 sentence or less if you can.
Right.
Because that's what resonates most. And so if you have a bottom line and then you later on in the week post that bottom line, people are more likely to remember it and engage with it. Even if you don't take pictures on Sundays like we do, you can still just post the text. Or you can maybe you take pictures every once in a while on Sundays or whatever. It doesn't have to be from that Sunday, but people engage with pictures of people as well. So if you have a picture of a person plus a quote, it gives it a lot of traction.
Yeah, this one's the no-brainer of the group to me. This is a very simple one. Like you said, regardless of if you take pictures or not, it can be posted somewhere.
Yes.
And it's just a way because most people, later on that afternoon, they're going to be looking at Facebook or social media a few hours after church, and it's just a good reminder and keeps it in their head just at least a little bit longer past when they leave church.
If you don't have a bottom line, if you don't kind of preach in that way, although I would highly recommend getting to where you have like a one way to sum it up so that you can tell people what to take away instead of them wondering.
Right.
If you have a point from your sermon or anything like that, again, we recommend a bottom line, but take a quote and post it on social media. If you can do it with a picture, it's even better, but if not. But that is one way to kind of get it out there. Plus, if people were there and they liked it, then when they see it, they're going to engage with it again. They're like, oh, that was good. Oh, that reminded me. Typically, we post ours on Monday or Tuesday to kind of give it a day or two. But that's one way you can repurpose your sermon, get some more mileage out of it. Is take a bottom line or take a quote and post it later on in the week. People will remember it. People will like it. That's one way you can do it.
Yep, and most likely people are going to share it.
Yes, and again, for us, it's one of our most highly engaged social media posts every week is the sermon quote. And so it works.
I like it. It's a simple one.
Simple one. Number 2, a little bit more work, but also goes with it, is a sermon clip.
Oh,
now this
is a little more work.
Probably only really work if you record your sermons with video.
Right.
If you just do audio, I mean, you could post an audio clip, but people probably aren't going to listen to it.
Right.
So we try to keep it at 2 minutes or less. We record our sermons, and this is also going around the bottom line. Typically, also has to do with the bottom line.
Yeah.
So we'll take about a minute or 2 minutes from explaining what the bottom line is and post that on social media. It also gets a lot of traction. And what's so great about the sermon quote, but even the video even more so, is that if someone really resonated with your message, then they liked it and they want their friends to see it, they will probably engage with and even reshare the post.
Totally.
Because they're like, this really spoke to me, and I've seen this. So they'll say, maybe this will speak to you, or maybe they'll give them the ability to give their friends something. Because here's the thing, like if somebody hears a really great message and you're like, go listen to it, and it's like 30 or 40 minutes, like, you're probably not going to.
No one's going to.
But if you say, hey, this is really great today, I want you to hear this, and it's like a minute or 2, that's great.
Yeah.
And it's a way to repurpose your sermon. So again, if you don't video record your sermons, this would be a little bit harder to do. But we record a whole sermon, and I kind of will go through, I know where the bottom line, it doesn't have to be the bottom line, but again, this is what's so powerful about a bottom line.
Yeah.
Is you find the bottom line and you take a little bit before, or take a little bit after. And again, people will get to see the bottom line again. They get to be reminded about what the message was, and they will also engage with it. And if they like it, they'll share it.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say is both of these are going to be shared, or are generally shared fairly often by people that were there, because most people, and if you've gotten good at crafting a good bottom line and kind of forming your sermon around it, most people resonate with it. And so they like being able to have just that one little clip to be able to share with people.
Yep.
And people are going to in turn look at it more. They're going to look at that. And I think people are like seeing more of kind of the inside of the church of actually someone speaking than just pictures,
Yep.
you know?
Gives
So
a
someone
human feel to it.
exactly. So doing this well, it's great that it's getting shared. You also have that benefit of someone who's never been there. Might be their first time checking out the church.
Yep. So sermon quote, sermon clip, and the third one is even the most amount of work.
Ooh.
But is doing your community groups or your small groups or whatever you call them based off your sermon.
Yep.
Now we talk about this specifically in episode 19. It's how to do, sermon-based groups. We call ours community groups. But the great thing about sermon-based groups is that it really engages people to want to listen and pay attention and learn. And then throughout the week, they're not learning another touch. If you have groups, they're not trying to learn something else they're probably going to forget. But it's just kind of giving them what they already learned and allows them to talk about it and dive a little bit deeper so it stays closer to home longer.
Yeah, that's a huge one, I think, because a lot of us, if you've ever been in groups before, I've been in groups where we've done them based on the sermon and based on not the sermon, on other stuff. And it's so much easier to connect with what you're talking about and having everyone on the same page if you're talking about what everyone already learned about or should have learned about,
and it makes it really easy too, because finding like group curriculum can be hard. Or maybe you have some groups that do a certain type of curriculum and some groups that don't do it, and whatever. Or maybe you don't have the money to pay for it.
Yeah.
Doing them based off the sermon, which if you want to learn how to do that, episode 19.
Yep.
Makes it really easy and free to be consistent across all your groups. Everyone's on the same page, and people are diving a little bit deeper, which is just nice to know that, again, not only they're listening to your sermon on a Sunday, but then they're talking about it throughout the week. And they've already done the homework.
Yeah.
Sometimes people try to read a book or whatever to do something extra to get ready for group. But it's like, no, they've already spent an hour if they went to church on that Sunday learning, and then they get to talk about it, and they already did the homework. They didn't even know it.
Yeah, I think sometimes when it comes to groups, and we like you said, we did dive into this in another episode, so go listen to that. But just to go on that tangent again a little bit, is people only have so much of a capacity to learn new stuff. And I think a lot of times we think of other people similar to ourselves, like if you're on staff at a church or a pastor, of yes, they hear what I said on Sunday, but then there's a million other messages they need to hear, and so groups is another way to get something new in there. But in reality, people, this is gonna sound bad, most people don't care as much as pastors do, or don't care as much about this stuff, and so really just having them focus on one thing each week a couple different times, they're going to retain it so much better than if we try and just kind of give them as much different information as possible.
If they do really care, you can't retain everything.
Yeah.
And so it keeps it consistent, and it helps people know, especially with groups, like what to expect before they show up. And for us, we've always done groups this way. We've never had anyone complain. And in fact, it kind of is nice because also if everyone listens to the same message and you're talking about it in groups, then it allows people to share their perspective, and maybe someone took away something like this or something else. And so it just gives you more mileage for your message.
Yeah, totally.
So those are 3 ways: a sermon quote, a sermon clip, and doing community groups based off your sermon. And let me give you a bonus tip.
Oh, didn't see us coming.
A bonus tip on your sermon quote is that if you take a picture, this only works if you have a picture of it, your caption, instead of saying the quote and then in the picture also having the quote, you can go to New City RDU. You can search us on Facebook and on Instagram or Twitter as well if you want to see how we do ours, because we put them on all platforms. We take a picture, have the quote in the picture. But if you put a Bible verse, this is how you get double bang for your buck. Bible verse and a quote is awesomely shareable.
Nice.
So if you put as the text a Bible verse that the main point was based off of, or maybe the main text of that Sunday, you want to keep it to a verse or two. You don't want to do a long passage. Then it's even better, because also they see your quote, but they see what it's based off of, so they know it's not I'm just thinking of this. This is some cool thing I said. They actually see where it's coming from. So caption it or use the text with the Bible verse. Have your quote in the picture, and that's another way you can get some more out of it. But those are 3 ways that you can get more out of your sermons: quote, clip, and community group leader guide, or however you call your groups. So thanks for listening. If you have questions about getting more out of your sermon or anything else about ministry, head to practicalplanning.com/questions, and we can talk about it in a future episode.
Yes, we can.
So thanks for being with us, and we'll be with you next time on Practical Church Planning. Thanks so much for watching this episode of Practical Church Planning. Whether you're watching on Facebook or YouTube or Practical Planning, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, make sure you like or subscribe or do whatever it's telling you to do or should do on that platform.
And hey, if you are so tired of looking at our ugly faces, but you're not tired of listening to our beautiful voices, then you can find our podcast if you just search Practical Church Planning on iTunes or Google Play. Make sure not to just find it, not just to listen, but to subscribe.
Make sure you subscribe. Brian, tell them to subscribe.
Subscribe.
See you next time.